Body recomp is a hot word in the fitness industry, and I think sometimes people make it seem like it's unattainable. So today I'm going to teach you step by step how almost everyone can achieve a body recomp. If you don't know me, my name is Haley. I'm your realistic and balanced bestie, helping you build a stronger brain and body. This is part 3 of 7 of your all-in-one guide to having a successful fitness journey. Today we're focusing on the specifics of body recomposition, which is my favorite topic ever because I've achieved my own body recomp twice now. So if that is also your goal, I'm going to break it all down for you today. Body recomposition is the act of gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time. No, you cannot turn your fat into muscle, but I think that the reason that myth ever even came into play is because so many people were experiencing a body recomp and just assumed that their fat was turning into muscle because they didn't realize that it was two separate phenomenons happening at the same time. And it might sound too good to be true, but today I am going to teach you how almost every single person can achieve a body recomp based on their fitness level. Today's episode is going to be a step-by-step guide, but first we have to determine which category you fit into and which level you fit into the best. It's been commonly known that there are 4 main groups of people who can easily achieve a body recomp. Number 1 being people who are new to the gym or who have been weightlifting for less than a year. Number 2 is people who have taken significant time off the gym for an injury or just in general. Number 3 is people who have never adhered to a progressive overload workout plan or a protein-focused diet. And number 4 is people who are using performance-enhancing drugs. If you don't fit into any of those, don't worry, just hang tight, I'm gonna address you in a second. So for the sake of this episode, if you're someone who's new to the gym, has been lifting less than a year, or has taken significant time off, we're gonna put you in the beginner category for your step-by-step protocol. If you're someone who's lifted, but you've never adhered to a strict nutrition protocol or anything like that, we're gonna put you in the intermediate category. And if you're someone who's using performance-enhancing drugs, or someone who just doesn't think a body recomp is possible for them, we're gonna put you in the advanced category. Now there's a few keys that are applicable to all 3 levels that I really want to cover first before we get into the nitty-gritty. So number 1, I can't talk about anything fitness related without saying that your genetics are going to play a role here. So when you're a beginner, this is going to be less of a cause for stress for you, but intermediate to advanced lifters might notice that the closer they get to their genetic potential, the less they're going to see progress. And I know no one wants to hear it, but I'm your bestie and I'm always going to be honest with you. If you're only a year or 2 into your lifting journey and you're not seeing the progress you want, it's highly unlikely that your genetics are to blame and very likely that something you're doing or not doing is just simply not working for you. The next key is tracking your progress. The scale is going to be a very hard way to measure yourself with a body recomp because you're gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time. You're going to notice a lot of fluctuations, especially early on. So measuring tape is going to be your best friend, which is always my favorite form of tracking if you know me, but I suggest measuring your shoulders, chest, your waist. You want to measure your waist right at the point where it folds if you bend to the side. Measure your hips, butt, quads, and calves. This is going to give you the most accurate representation of your progress during a recomp. Now, it is important to note that water weight, hormonal fluctuations, and muscle swelling can also cause influxes in this progress tracking tool as well. So it's important to use these measurements as more of a linear tool, meaning don't get too caught up in the week to week, but look more at your progress as a whole. And progress photos are going to be your number 1 way of tracking your progress here, and I recommend trying to take them in the same lighting, same time of day, and in the same poses, either every week or every other week. You want to do 1 forward-facing photo, 1 side-facing photo, and 1 back-facing photo, and I recommend picking the same pose no matter what it is, just as long as you stick with it. I also recommend not comparing them week to week again because sometimes when we get too focused on that week-to-week progress, we lose sight of the bigger picture here. The third key in a body recomp is going to be hydration, and that's because when you're dehydrated, the last thing your body cares about is building muscle because to build muscle, your body has to be in as much of an optimized state as possible, which means just being completely hydrated. To get the best results with the easiest formula here, you're going to want to try to aim to drink 0.7 ounces of water per pound of body weight. When you're exercising, this is going to require a little bit more hydration, so you want to try to get in 0.1 to 0.3 ounces in the 2 to 4 hours before you do your workout, and during your workout, you want to try to drink 7 to 10 ounces per 10 to 20 minutes of exercise. I like to keep a separate gym water bottle from my daily water bottle to help me track this the best. So if my normal water bottle is 40 ounces, I try to drink 2 of those a day, plus my separate gym water bottle, which for me, my pre-workout water goal is 11 to 30 ounces. And based on the amount of time that I'm usually exercising, my water that I want to drink during my exercise is around 20 to 50 ounces. And I kind of dictate it based on how high intensity my workout is for that day. So at minimum, I'll drink 32 ounces before and during my workout. And at a maximum, I might fill up that water bottle a second time early on in my workout to get 64 ounces of water. Again, I base this completely on the intensity of my workout for that day. and most of the time this one water bottle is really all I need. The next biggest key for a body recomp is sleep, and I personally think this is the most ignored part of a successful transformation. There was a 2010 sleep study that tested individuals sleeping 8.5 hours a night versus 5.5 hours a night while eating a fixed macro diet, and they lost the same amount of weight between these two groups, but the 5.5 hours of sleep per night lost 80% of that weight from muscle, not from fat. And let me just say, this is another reason your scale is not a good indicator of your progress. But lack of sleep can also affect your hunger cues by increasing a hormone called ghrelin, which is going to make you want to eat a little bit more. And for a journey that is highly focused on maintaining your calories, it's going to make this extremely challenging to gauge if you're hungry because your maintenance calories have changed or if you're just hungry because you didn't sleep enough. Overall, you want to aim for 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night to get the best results in your recomp. And the last thing that I want to touch on is cardio. To maintain as much muscle possible, you should really be keeping strength training as the focal point of your exercise program because too much cardio can have an effect on your gains. If you have significant body fat to lose and you're more sedentary on a daily basis, you can get away with up to 3 to 5 cardio sessions per week. But those who have less fat to lose or those who are more active throughout the day want to stick to 1 to 3 cardio sessions per week during a recomp. Higher intensity cardio has also been shown to interfere with muscle building when performed regularly. So for the purpose of a body recomp, I would recommend doing no more than 1 high intensity cardio session per week, with the rest being low intensity steady state cardio workouts. This means once a week you might do a high intensity sprint session, with the rest being something like walking or cycling. And to stick with the goal of building the most muscle possible while losing fat, I would recommend doing your cardio at the end of your strength training session, but it really depends on your schedule and your preferences. Now, for the specific training and nutrition protocols, I'm gonna break it down into beginners as one category and intermediate to advanced as another category, just because the protocols are gonna be a little bit different here as far as how you train and what you should eat. But I do think that the beginner category is gonna have some things that are applicable to intermediate and advanced lifters as well. So you might as well just listen to the whole thing. Now, for beginners, this category is a prime contender for a body recomposition. You might have even heard this when people say, oh, I had newbie gains. And that's because a lot of times newbies just don't realize that the reason they're seeing such great progress is because they just achieved a body recomposition. So for nutrition, you're gonna wanna eat at your maintenance calories. I've actually linked a calculator down below that you can use to make this as easy as possible, as again, beginners are gonna have the best luck in a successful body recomposition without really having to have any strict dietary rules. The one caveat here is that if you're what you would consider skinny fat, for lack of a better word, which in my experience is mostly those who have never touched a weight before or who just find that they're not really overweight, but they just kind of lack definition all over. This is actually the category that I fit into when I first started lifting. So if that's you, you can get away with a 100 to 300 calorie deficit when you first start your journey, and that is because your body is gonna have a harder time losing that fat than it is gaining that muscle. Now, you should go back to your maintenance calories within 3 to 6 months or when you start to notice strength plateaus. Now, if you wanna lose fat and gain muscle equally, or you're currently overweight but still looking to lose fat and gain muscle, sticking at your maintenance calories is going to be the best way for you to see progress here. When it comes to macros, we're going to make this as simple as possible, but first we have to find out your lean body mass. You can either look up a body fat percentage chart or just use the one that I've linked below, and you're going to multiply your current weight by the body fat percentage that you think you fit into. Then you're going to subtract that number from your total weight. I've also linked a calculator below if you don't want to do any of the work and you just want to have it do for you. But once you have that number, aka your lean body mass, we are going to use that to determine your protein goal. This is important even if you don't plan on tracking your macros or calories, because it's going to allow you to make sure that you're eating enough protein throughout the day, which really is the key to a body recomp. So you want to eat 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. Now, the leaner you are, the closer you want to be to that 1.6 grams of protein per pound of body fat, due to the fact that it's going to be more challenging to put on muscle without a high protein diet. If you're not tracking your calories, you can actually skip this next part, but if you are, I've also created a full calorie and macro calculator that I linked below that you can use to adjust based on your need. Now, if you're highly active throughout your day, you can get away with closer to 20% of your calories from fats, with the rest from carbs. And if you're more sedentary, you're going to find better results from having a higher percentage of fat, anywhere from 30 to 35%, with the rest of those from carbs. And if in 2 full months after your calorie choice, you're not seeing any improvements, and I mean 2 full months of actually sticking to it, don't bullshit yourself here. So if you really don't notice any changes in your composition from your progress photos and from your measurements, you want to adjust your calories by a 100 to 200 calorie deficit, but keep your protein the same. Again, this is only if you've seen zero change in your measurements and your progress photos. Remember, we have two separate processes happening during a recomp, and patience is really your key here. For beginner training protocols, beginners are going to find it, again, fairly simple to produce muscle hypertrophy as long as they're training at a minimum of 3 to 4 times per week, pushing themselves within 2 to 3 reps shy of failure, and increasing the weights lifted or the reps lifted on a week-to-week basis. This means an ideal split for a beginner is a 4-day split, meaning 2 upper body days and 2 lower body days. Now you can turn those upper body days into 1 push day and 1 pull day, meaning on the push day you're gonna do chest, triceps, and shoulders, and on the pull day you're gonna do back and bicep. But it's really just based on personal preference because the volume would be about the same whether you did 2 full upper body days or split it between the 2 focuses. When we talk about pushing ourselves to failure, a lot of beginners don't actually know how to gauge this. Some of the 5 best key indicators that you're getting close to failure are 1, if your tempo starts to slow down dramatically, 2, if you feel tension or shakiness within your working muscles, and this isn't to be confused with a burn because a burn isn't really an indicator of getting close to failure. Number 3, your range of motion is going to start to decrease. Number 4, your heart rate is going to increase, and you're going to notice that you have to be a little bit more intentional with your breaths. Number 5, and of course, the most common way to figure out that you're getting close to failure is actually going to failure. I recommend trying to do this on machines as it's typically a little bit safer to get to failure on, and it'll give you an idea of the max weight that you can lift when you start doing dumbbells or barbell exercises. Now, when it comes to progressive overload, you want to make sure that you're progressing on a consistent basis. Most strength training programs that you're going to do are going to be doing the same workouts from week to week for best results. I know this is boring, but boring is the bread and butter, baby. This means that each week that you're doing the same workouts as the week before, you want to try to either increase the weight that you lift on each exercise or increase the amount of reps that you do on those exercises. For beginners, I would aim to do this on every single exercise because as a beginner, you're gonna notice the quickest strength improvements. So if last week you deadlifted 3 sets at 115 pounds for 10 reps, this week you're gonna wanna do 3 sets at 120 pounds for 10 reps. And maybe the week after that, you're gonna do 3 sets at 120 pounds for 12 reps. Each week you should be trying to improve because this is going to give you the best result. Now, for intermediate and advanced babes, I know we think a lot of times that it's physically not possible for more advanced lifters to achieve a body recomp, but the good news is that it's been proven entirely possible. And also, I've personally proved it possible as well. There was actually a 2017 study following college athletes, and in that they discovered that with a high protein diet, it's incredibly possible to lose fat mass while simultaneously gaining muscle mass, even in trained individuals. These individuals were eating about 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight, and they were also following strict progressive overload training techniques. And this caused them to see successful body recomposition over the course of the study. There was also another study done on highly trained males with over 3 years of lifting experience that showed similar results here, and these men were eating that same amount of protein, the 0.8 grams per pound of body weight, and although they gained lean mass and fat mass, their body fat percentage still did decrease throughout the length of the study, meaning they did achieve a body recomp by the standard of lowering total body fat while increasing total muscle mass. So how do we achieve the same result as an intermediate to advanced lifter? Because unfortunately, we're past that main beneficial time frame of being a beginner with a body recomp, so we do have to make some training and nutrition adjustments here to see the same results. Because we're no longer a beginner, we are going to see less results being at perfect maintenance calories. So this means we either have to go into a slight surplus or a slight deficit. To choose, we're going to decide which of the 2 components is a bigger focus for you. Meaning, do you want to lose fat more than you want to gain muscle? Or do you want to gain muscle more than you want to lose fat? If your primary goal is to lose weight, you're going to want to set your calories at a 20% deficit from your maintenance calories. And if your primary goal is to gain muscle, you're going to want to set your calories at a 10 to 15% surplus from your maintenance calories. Again, I have a full calorie and macro calculator linked below, so you can just take the guesswork out of this. Now, you also need to know your total lean body mass for this, and once you know it, you're going to want to consume 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per pound of lean body mass. Again, closer to that 1.6, the leaner you are. Same as beginners, 20 to 30% of your calories are going to want to come from fats, and the rest are going to come from carbs. So if you're more sedentary, you're going to want a higher percentage from your fat, and vice versa. If you're really active, you can have a higher percentage from your carbs. Now, since you're more advanced, your progress pictures and measurements are going to be huge indicators on what needs to be adjusted as you go throughout this program. If your primary goal was to lose fat, and after 1 month you're still not seeing any change at all in your measurements and your progress photos, it might be necessary to start start to increase your deficit by another 100 to 250 calories, but you want to take these calories from your carbs and fats, not from your protein. And on the flip side, if your primary goal was to gain muscle and after a month you still see no progress in your muscle gain via photos or measurements, you might want to add an increase of calories from 100 to 300 calories here. However, it is important to note that the more advanced you are, the harder it's going to be to gain muscle, so you really want to assess this before you jump to conclusions here. So really assess your lifts and see if you're making any strength improvements week to week, because if you are, that's actually a really good indicator that you are making improvements and you just can't see it happening yet. You want to make sure that you've been accurately sticking to the program before you switch things up out of frustration here. So really take your time, be patient, and assess things before you make decisions. Now for intermediate to advanced training, ideally you've already been pushing close to failure up until this point, but if not, now is the time to start. So you really want to be getting close to that failure limit to maximize your muscle gains here. The ideal splits for an intermediate to advanced trainee are going to be either a 5-day split or a 6-day split. For the 5-day split, you could either split it up with 3 lower body days and 2 upper body days, or you could do 3 upper body days and 2 lower body days, depending on your goals. The other best option is going to be a 6-day split, preferably following a push-pull leg split, or honestly, whatever split works best for you. Now, progressive overload is going to be a little bit more challenging as you get more advanced due to that ultimate genetic potential that we talked about earlier, but you can still overload your muscles by adding slower tempos. You can increase your range of motion, you can decrease your rest times, or you can try to add in an extra set. Since it's going to feel more challenging to overload your exercises week to week, it's really important to actively try to pick at least 2 exercises per workout that you focus on progressively overloading in comparison to the week before. Again, you want to try to use the techniques that I just mentioned. I personally like to pick 1 compound move and 1 accessory move to really focus on each workout. So if last week I did squats and single leg hip thrusts, this week I might do that exact same amount of weight and same amount of reps for those 2 exercises, but I might shorten my rest time or add a slower tempo to those moves. Overall, although it's going to be a much slower and more challenging process for intermediate to advanced lifters, I think it is so worth it to focus on a body recomp because the results are just so wonderful and it feels so great to be able to maintain strength and build muscle while also losing fat. I actually created this whole step-by-step process in a guide on my app for your most successful body recomp. I listed all the calculators in it and a workout program that correlates to each phase of this body recomp, and you can get access to it in the link below to start your most successful body recomposition literally ever. But that is my TED Talk spiel on a body recomp. I really hope that you learned something and got a perfect idea of what your specific recomp is gonna look like. If you see success from these protocols, please tag me on Instagram at Haley Lene so I can see all your progress and keep up with your journey. Until next time, be kind to your mind, to your body, and to others, and happy healing.